Hi everybody, we're at the Moab May Gathering here in Moab, surprisingly. We're at the old Spanish trail arena where we've got lots of owners of Grenadiers coming to join in the festivities. We're open for lots of Grenadiers coming out here. And I'm with John from Owl Vans. John's going to run us through some bits and pieces that he's done, accessories that they sell, and some pretty cool stuff. And obviously, a lot of Grenadiers are a blank canvas for the owner or even the prospective owner, to put various different bits and pieces on. So yeah, John. How did you get into vehicles? Let's get a little bit about you.
Yeah, so historically, I was I've always been a car nut since I was a little kid. In fact, in college, I took ASE mechanics classes just for fun in the summers instead of like going abroad. Okay. And then I learned how to fabricate from my uncle who was a welder. So I always kind of made my own stuff, and then was a motorcycle racer and car racer for a long time. So. Always been passionate about cars and ended up making my own gear for Sprinter vans. Right. And so many people asked for it that I started selling those products, and it grew really quickly. Yep. But my passion wasn't only vans. And when these came out, I loved the utility of them. Yeah. And I thought, what a great, as you mentioned, blank canvas. Mm-hmm. And I love the engineering of this. It's so straightforward and understandable that it's fantastic for any car enthusiast that has passion to be able to work on their own vehicle, which is an impossibility these days. So I've always loved cars. I love, creating new designs to solve problems and just rolling it over my head. And so that's kind of how I design. And this is all fun for us. So this Grenadier has been really fun for the team to work on. They've done so much van stuff in the past, and now it's like, what, we get to work on a new platform that's exciting, that people are really into. So that's kind of where we are now.
Community is very big, right? Especially the overlanding craze. But these are something else, right?
Well, it's really cool. I think that the van world gets, the customer for a van isn't coming from a Jeep. They're coming from a Tesla. And so they're getting into the vans, they're going out into places like Moab, they're doing dispersed camping, and they're seeing all these Jeeps and Grenadiers and off-road buggies go by, and they're like, what's that like? And then they end up, the number of customers that end up buying kind of a more proper off-road four-wheel drive vehicle in addition to their van is incredibly high.
Yeah. And it's nice that you're enthusiastic about cars, which you need to be, I think, to do this stuff. You can't just be saying, let's make this. It has to come from a place of utility, but also of a bit of interest and passion, right? So
humans are very good at sniffing out authenticity. And there are very few people, they call them car nutters, who are incredibly adept at getting you to believe they're authentic. And that's I don't want to call it a talent, that's a rare thing. Most people, if they're not passionate about something, you can see right through it. And I think you talk to anyone on our team, the analogy I like to use is everyone's seen the gold miners with the pans, and so, you hire a lot of people, and then you sift it, and you end up with just people that are as passionate as you are about vehicles, and that's our team.
And I think also the owners as well. If you've spoken to lots of customers that they are passionate about what, and they might be a bit unique in that they want different accessories and whatever, but the core passion is there, and you can get all your automotive kicks in something like this without spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on a supercar or whatever it is.
So I got, shockingly, I got a flat off-roading yesterday, and so I actually just sheared off a valve stem. It wasn't a big deal, but then afterwards we went into a tire shop in town. You got to understand. Yes, you got to understand, this is Moab. They see every version of off-roader under the sun constantly every day. We pulled up in 3 of these, and the guys in the shop come out and they go, what on earth are these? And we said, they're INEOS Grenadiers, and we told them the story about Jim and how he started the company, so on. They were absolutely flummoxed, and then when we told them how much they cost, they figured these were 120, 150K all day long.
Well, they get the G-Wagon kind of label, don't they?
They have a cachet that, as we say, it punches above their weight. So they look like they're a class of vehicle that is in the G-Wagon price range, but they have the capability of a Jeep, and they're kind of really, these days, similar pricing to a Jeep. So they were blown away and loved them. They ended up doing the tire work for free because they, got in and sat in them, and to have guys that see everything, come out covered in grease, working on tires all day.
Passionate and sort of positive about it, right?
Absolutely.
Got you. Yeah. Well, let's move on to some of the things. We're going to change tact here a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some of the accessories you do. Talk to me about these side steps. So these are pretty cool, right? The way that they work, open like that.
Yeah, we're big on kind of multifunction. And so we understand that these vehicles are going from the trail to the country club, if you will.
Yeah.
And so everybody wants to be able to have a vehicle that they can go on the trails and then drive home. And then the kids, the wife, the family, the husband, whomever doesn't typically ride in the vehicle can get in and out easily. So when you've got a step, and this has got a 4-inch lift on it, but when
just to be clear, because there's sometimes a distinction between steps and rock sliders, but this effectively is both, all right?
It is. So under here, you can see all of this road rash. You know, I am coming to terms with these. So I actually, there's an on-off switch. So I opened the door and turned the off switch and left my side step down. But that was user error. But once they're up, so we actually got a flat and we jacked the entire vehicle up on the slider. So it is a proper rock slider. That's what's most amazing about rock slide engineering. These are actually, I believe they're the most popular step for Jeeps in the world. So these,
brand, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we talked to the folks over at Rock Slide Engineering. Yeah. They developed this specifically for the Grenadier.
Wheelbase, yeah.
And it's just so nice to be able to get in and out that easily.
Got you.
And it works off of magnets, so it doesn't tie into the kind of the CAN bus or the electrical system of the vehicle. So you don't need to worry about warranty issues. You don't need to worry about the sensor not knowing if the door is open.
It's a magnet that allows it to open and close. It's not wired into the interior light, which is the normal way of doing it, right?
Correct. So if you get like an amp research step or something like that, one, it's not a slider, and two, oftentimes you have to wire it into the vehicle. And there are tons of complexities with that, especially on chassis that are sophisticated, like, you know, Mercedes, or, you know, this has a lot of wiring and so on.
So a lot of the what I'd call normal ones, right? When you see them, even if they've just gone over a curb and they get damaged, and then they either don't fold down or they don't fold up because they get rusty, especially out here in Utah in the winter. Yeah, so it's kind of nice that it deploys like that. Yeah.
So I'll share with you some footage from yesterday. So we not only lifted the vehicle with the jack on the side step, but I slammed this thing off of a rock about as hard as you can, and no worries whatsoever.
Yeah, so it's nice that they retract right in, and also, as you say, they're load bearing, which is which, as I say, not all of these do. So that's good. Yeah, that's an awesome extras. And you've got these ready to go, right?
Yes, these will be in our warehouse within the next week. And then one of the nice things too, and they're not set up on this one yet, but when you open this, it's actually got lights in here that aren't wired yet, but they'll shine down so you can actually see the step at night.
Very bougie.
Yeah. Now, granted, it doesn't say like INEOS on the light when it, but no, it's not next. It's
like it says Genesis or Cadillac or Lexus or whatever, right? Okay, yeah. But it's somebody might ask you for that. Yeah, maybe the next stage. All right, so next thing we talk about are the lights. Okay, pretty cool lights on this. So you've replaced you've replaced the standard lights here, wired them into vehicle. Talk to us about those, because those are pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely an aesthetic statement, but it's really more of a functional upgrade. Yeah, I think INEOS did a great job with the design of the front end of this vehicle, and they had those off-road running lights. A lot of customers wanted to be able to turn them on more easily, but more importantly, they wanted to get vastly more light output. We work with RRR a lot. They are one of the highest quality brands that I've ever worked with. This is actually a design, their kind of ethos is to make a light that integrates with the OEM look of the vehicle. So it's not something that bolts onto the top of the Bullbar or floats on top of the hood and looks very aftermarket.
Yeah,
they want to look integrated.
It's in the aperture that it was designed for, right?
And one of the really cool things that you'll notice is that you're not seeing the individual LEDs. So what they are is they're a reflected LED. So they actually aim, the LEDs are aiming up and down on that kind of carbon strip. And then they bounce off of essentially a parabola or just a shape that focuses the light. And what it does, it allows them to really aim the light for the use case. So for these Sentinels on the front of a vehicle, it's going to project the light further ahead. And they can have some LEDs on the top that go further down the road, some that they focus tighter on the road, and so on. And then I'll turn this on real quick, and you can see that they have a really cool DRL function.
Yeah.
And that will unhide our hidden light bar up there, also made by Triple R. I think it fits that section really nicely. And
so when you put this in, any internal stuff to take out of there, material?
all you do is this honeycomb plastic grill here.
Okay,
there's a little bit of top that you trim, but you can do that with like scissors or snips.
Okay,
it's
not like a major
crazy
thing.
easy.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And in fact, we just sell we sell this light for the same price for this kit as the light by itself, because it's just 2 brackets to mount it.
Right.
And they cost us, you know, I don't know, a couple of bucks. So we don't even charge more for them.
And I think they complement these quite nicely, you know, being circles. Yeah,
I was nervous about the size of them, but then I thought they would compete. But then once I saw them in person, I thought it looked really, really good. And the DRLs, I think, look fantastic. And you can change them from clear to amber, depending on your personal preference on color. But I think with the daytime running lights on the Grenadier being clear, I think the clear looks really good.
Sure. Yeah. But everyone's different, right? And that's the thing. I mean, just looking just behind us now, you look at all of these Grenadiers, they may be similar colors, but that's where the similarity ends. Everybody wants their own stuff, right? So yeah, whether it's bumpers and lights. So talk us about the bumper though. That's so well the bar actually.
Yeah, so this is a stock bumper, and our Bullbar mounts to it. And we wanted to make something that was really, really stout. And you can't really feel anything on camera, but we used a really thick diameter DOM steel.
Yeah.
So it basically doesn't have a seam, so it's much, much stronger. And then a lot of people have talked about, I bring this up because in person, I think it looks really good. In photos, it can look a bit odd, but this kind of aesthetic here, and people think that was a design choice. And this was where we put function above aesthetics. So
just to be clear, you're talking about the way that it's
the junction here and why it doesn't just wrap in. So what happens is when you use tubing with this wall thickness, you can only bend it so tightly before it snaps. And so
the radius, you mean?
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
And so if the radius is tight, it means the wall is thin, which means it's A, inexpensive, and B, it's not going to do anything.
Because effectively you're stretching material, right? What people don't realize,
And so that material has to have some place to go, and when you get thicker, it just snaps. And so this is because we use much thicker DOM steel, which means it's going to be more robust, say an animal strike, for those folks that are, you know, up in, you know, the northern US or Canada or something, Alaska, that really have that. And then we finish it off with machined billet caps that cover all the bolts.
Right.
And then I learned yesterday that it also works as a slider. So when you're coming off of an obstacle where you have near vertical descent and you land on a rock, it actually protects the bumper a little bit. So
demonstrated thus.
I'm gonna claim that was purposeful design.
There you go.
But in reality, it wasn't.
No, it's very cool. But that's, I mean, you're talking about the tubing aspect of the Bullbar. That really is the whole idea of the Grenadier, right? It is function over form, which just happens to look quite cool, not the other way around. So yeah, that's something without you explaining it, you just think, oh, it couldn't be bothered to bend the tube around, they just welded it together. But so yeah, I absolutely get it. So the last thing we're going to talk about, and we'll put some extra footage of this, is the skid plates. Now we can't really do that because obviously we need to get underneath the Grenadier, but talk us briefly, without sending everybody to sleep, just about, because we can't physically
skid plates aren't exciting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the problem, right?
We have one of the members of our team is Dan Fresh, who's won the Baja 1000. He's one of the best off-road racers currently in the world.
Yeah,
you know, goes to King of the Hammers, runs these things over rocks, and what everyone on these race trucks have is skid plates with UHMW, which for folks that don't know, it's a very slippery, expensive, hard plastic. So it's not injection molded. So when you have plastic like this, it's going to be injection molded.
Yes, correct.
Delrin or UHMW is a plastic that's made in sheets. It's like cutting board material. And it's machined. So it's as expensive as aluminum. So for our skid plates, we did a couple of things. One, because we test all this stuff, like places here in Moab, we have steel differential covers. And I had aluminum diff covers last time I came here. They folded on the first obstacle, and I said, never again, steel going forward. The skid plates themselves are continuous front to back, so there's no gaps. It's no place for a rock to sink up
so
between
just to be
them.
clear, then the idea is it does protect whatever you're putting it on, but the idea is to go over it. So it's actually creating a barrier between, you know, rather than trying to avoid it altogether.
It's not just about protection, it's about usability. And so the UHMW does two things. Aluminum sticky, UHMW slippery. And so when you do get on a rock, the UHMW will slide, which is what you want. And you don't want the rock tearing into your skid plate.
Like where there's joins and bolts and whatever,
And the second thing it does is it's replaceable. So you can use the daylights out of it, your skid plate's intact underneath, and then you can pull it off. It also is gonna make the aluminum stiffer without adding a ton of weight. And so I think it's a really, really nice option for these. And if you're gonna buy skid plates, I think the pricing on them is gonna be roughly the same as what else is out there. And so I think it makes a ton of sense. And then if you have time, I'd love to tell you about our 4-inch lift on this, which is
next thing. Tell us.
If you notice this thing's sitting a lot higher, anyone that does a lot of off-roading knows that one of the best ways to get ground clearance is by getting bigger tires, and to get bigger tires, you need to get a lift. And so what we've done is we've partnered with Eibach, who make a 4-inch lift spring for this. So it's got the same ride quality as the OEM spring, which I thought was a great ride quality. And then we pair it with our shocks here. These have a burnt bronze finish on the shock body. Most people leave the shock bodies.
And this springs are durable, right? Obviously.
They are. And you'll notice, see the tire mark on our thing. So this is one of the reasons we test this stuff out here, because we're actually gonna redo this bracket now and move this in, because when I disconnected the sway bar, at full stuff, we were rubbing the tire on the remote reservoir. So there's the perfect reason why we come out and test this stuff, because we want it to be as rugged for the hardcore user, so that the person that maybe doesn't do a 7 or a 10 out of 10 trail is gonna be well sorted.
And on this one, drive shaft, what's the solutions with the drive shaft on the front? What have you done to that?
So we have 2 Rosepa joints that have a higher angle for the front drive shaft. We have those on our other vehicles with the 4-inch lift. This one, however, has the stock drive shaft. And we've got thousands of miles on it with no problems. So
pretty good, right?
I think that, now it may fail at some point. But I also think that a lot of the front drive shaft issues have been installation error.
Where people let them hang down while they're, I've heard that.
So the front drive shaft's only about this long. And it seems logical that you could just unbolt it and let it hang. But what happens is that can tear the boot and cause you know, a failure in the front drive shaft. So I think if care is taken when installing a lift, people need to worry a lot less about that front drive shaft.
I agree
also, there's a solution. If you do have a problem, you put the Rosepa joints in and you're good to go.
And that's like a double joint, right?
And this one still has all the factory arms. So we have adjustable arms that are coming out shortly if you want to kind of center the axle and move it forward for more caster. But we wanted to leave this one entirely stock with the exception of the lift. So that's an option for customers who've had 0 problems. The thing drives fantastically. You've driven it.
So I drove this earlier today. And it does drive. It drives very nice. Also makes a cool noise because of your exhaust, which is the thing I like about it the most, hearing that 6-cylinder engine. So just before we end, then one more thing I got to ask you is, did you at some point must have seen the Gulf Racing colors? Is that? Which is just
a sucker for that livery.
So
I love it.
It's kind of cool. So you've got your kind of owl stroke Gulf. It's a kind of nod to that, which I think is, but I'd only just realized that. Which is perfect for the El Rey blue, right?
It looked, the blue was so perfect for that. And our company colors are blue. Blue's my favorite color. My team gives me a lot of crap because I make everything blue. But we thought it would be fun to do kind of a heritage livery with the Gulf stuff.
It's good, and I like the way you've integrated the owl into the screw plate bowl shaft.
Where your racing number would be.
So I mean the way the owl logo fits into it's very cool the way you've done that. You've obviously got way too much time on your hands.
Oh, brutal. I don't, you know what they say, right? Give tasks to busy people.
There you go.
And so we work incredibly hard. The output of the team is mind-boggling. And I'll say this, we don't get out of the office very much, but we look forward to this gathering every year for 2 reasons. One, we get to meet with customers, get feedback from them on our parts, but more importantly, it's a chance for the passionate people in our company to come out here and wheel these things. We had a guy that's one of our top techs. He's actually never wheeled before. He's been on a lot of trips. We gave him one of our Grenadiers to wheel yesterday. He actually did better than me. I was really annoyed, but
Right.
You know, this is how passionate the guys that work on these things are,
Yeah.
that they come out here, they wheel, they use the product so that when they're talking to customers or installing things, they know where the pain points are, they know how to talk to the customers, how they're used. So I think that's different from like maybe some overseas brand that, you know,
Yeah.
that it makes like same.
And also, it's very, you know, especially out here, you need to have seen what the vehicles are doing, and then you can talk about your accessories with a bit of conviction, right? Rather than just a bunch of engineering specs. It's like, do this, do that, paint it this color, measure it here.
Absolutely.
Do this, yeah. So it's anyway, yeah, it's very cool. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
Absolutely.
It's an absolute
Really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thanks very much, and enjoy the event. Yeah, we'll speak.
I absolutely will.
All right,
Thank you.